No more PowerPoint. That's it. We're done for the day. It gets worse. You'll have to follow around a whiteboard with me instead. So yeah, I have no slides, and I have Sharon hopefully on the line, will be able to be patched in and speak. And she also has prepared a video as demonstrating some of this stuff remotely in this scenario is not really possible. So we have a lovely video from her to play, but we'll meet her before we play that. So yeah, I'm going to talk about Miro and what it is and how you might use it. And I'm just going to free talk about it, to be honest, because I have no PowerPoint. So Miro is basically an interactive whiteboard. It's nothing new in that sense. Whiteboards have been around a long time. In the traditional sense, in our classrooms, we know what they are. You know, you get up, you scribble on them, you use them to collaborate, use them to interact with your work group. And then the digital format of the whiteboard has come along since, and there's plenty of those out there too. We can start with the basic Microsoft whiteboard, which is quite simple. You know, people might have seen it in Teams and used it already. There's the Google Jamboard, which is a really nice free sticky type board as well, where you get those kind of nice sticky pad notes. And there's Mural, which would be a big competitor to Miro. And there's probably a ton more of them that I don't even know about. But Miro is kind of one of the leaders at the moment, in so much that it's made a really nice educational package. Whereas Mural is a bit more professional, perhaps, and targeting businesses, and is that little bit pricier. So Miro for us is quite accessible, and we've been using it here in different formats. Why would you want to use it? Well, there's a number of reasons. I suppose going back again, let's say pre-COVID, you know, we're all in a big workshop. We can get the whiteboards, we can get the paper, we can get the sticky pad notes. There's no problem. We can all chat about things and see it together in one big space. And that's all very well and good, and still that will come back, and we will have those type of workshops. The problem with it, and has always been with it, is that when the workshop is over, the paper and the sticky pad notes are strewn everywhere, and they're eventually just tossed in the bin, and they're kind of useless, and you lose the record, and you lose the persistence of that information. And that kind of information when you're workshopping is really, really important. You actually do want to keep it. And now in our modern age, of course, where people will be working remotely, and not everybody will be able to attend some session like that in person, it makes sense to have something that's digital. It makes sense to have a board where people can interact, they can add items, they can set up frameworks, and they can keep a record of what happens. And when you have a record of what happens, you can see change in action. So you can see the history of how something evolved. Whereas with sticky pad notes and paper, you know, you just end up seeing a lot of, you know, crossed out lines and blacked out text and so on. So I think that's a really good reason to use it, in my opinion, is just for that longevity. It's a visual record of a conversation, put it kind of a bit more poetically. So who or where might we use it? Well, we're going to show you today kind of two distinct categories of people using it. So myself in a professional sense for projects, and Sharon's going to show you how she uses it in the classroom. Now, the two things are entirely interchangeable, of course, because let's face it, it's all collaboration of some sort. But it's just to make the distinguishing point of that you can use it in your day job if you're working out in projects. So whether you're an academic or not, it doesn't really matter. It's really powerful in that sense. And then, of course, in the classroom, it's even more powerful. So what I'm going to do is I'm on Miro here. So this is my little demo board, and this is a little splash screen. And I'm just going to go back to my dashboard. And let's see, I'm going to go back here. So this is my dashboard of where I'm logged in. And just some different uses. Maybe it might be easy just to show you. I might just pop into the Miroverse first, actually, just to show you. If I wanted to create a new board, let's say, there's lots of templates. So the choice that you have in using these is massive. Like, you kind of need to have a reason to use Miro, I suppose, in a way. But you can see on the left-hand side, it breaks it down into lots of different use cases. So are you having a meeting or a workshop? Is it for ideation, agiles, workflows, like mapping diagrams, flowcharts, concept maps? And it has all these lovely pre-prepared structures for you that you can fill in. So that's kind of one of the big advantages with Miro over something like Microsoft Whiteboard, is the templating. That these templates are here ready for you to use. So if you're doing some, like something that we just mentioned in the previous topic, doing journey maps, so learner experience journeys, customer journeys, you can use something like this, and it's already there for you to go. So if we go full screen, we can zoom in, and we can see that it's actually helping you understand what you should even be doing across the journey steps. This even looks very like what we did in terms of discovery, registration, onboarding, sharing. Again, these are common design thinking patterns. So actions, needs, pain points, touch points, customer feeling, opportunities. These are super templates to help you get started if this is the type of thing you're looking to do. So you can use a pre-filled or you can use a blank template from this. And these are supplied by Miro.com itself. Oh my God. All right. Okay. If we go to another one, actually, sorry, I should have just gone back and showed you some more. Our new board again, and just from templates. Also, so these are from Miro. So these are really nice, clean ones. So app wireframes. Again, if you have students who are just designing mobile phone apps, again, it gives you the wireframes that you can just automatically pull down and use. Just very, very handy. 5-day sprints, design sprints, again, big templates that you can just decide to use. The other place you can go to then is the Miroverse, which is the community side of things. So people who are big fans of Miro, they make their own templates and they share them with each other. So, you get things that fall into other categories outside of this sort of business realm. So there's quite a few for education, which you'll see how I use one in a minute that came from here. Persona workshops, warm-ups, wake-ups. I don't know what this one is. So this is probably something we could have done with to energize people during a workshop. So about me's and different things. So so between Miro.com and between the Miroverse of the community, there's lots of templates you can use. So I'm going to talk about some that I use, I think, maybe give 2 examples. So just as a simple one, from a professional point of view, as I'm a learning technologist, learning outcomes, assessment outcomes are quite important to me. And this is just one of our projects that's ongoing. The content doesn't really matter, but it's just the concept of how you can use it. That if you're working with course redesign, so I hope Paul doesn't mind me showing this, but if we're working on breaking out a course, let's say in 3 sections, and we have these sticky pad notes here, which kind of list some of the areas that are underneath all the different topics. And our purpose of using this particular template was to try and build learning outcomes for each of these. So using this template, I have a learning objective composition. And just to give you some of the terminology here, this is within a frame in Miro. These are all individual sticky pad notes. And this frame is kind of designed and like taped together, the way you group objects in Word or in PowerPoint, the way you can group things and keep it together. So you've got this nice frame, and then you have these objects. And on the right-hand side of this, we have components that we drop in. Now, this is a template from the Miroverse, so I won't claim to have designed this. It's somebody in the education community who decided, let's build a little template to help learning objective composition. And over here, we have Marilla's favorite. We have lots of things from Bloom's taxonomy, and we have the action verbs associated with it. So we have the creating all the way to remembering, and then the action verbs that go with each of those along the way. The template is asking me to basically fill out this sentence. So by the end of such topic, learners will be able to verb the topic or subject. So by the end of understanding and designing a learning plan, learners will be able to describe what is meant by a learning engineering outcome, select an appropriate learning activity, and design an appropriate plan. So that's the simple composition of a learning objective. And then a little bit later, you might decide, I now need to go and make an assessment for this. So this was a very complicated one, so I decided to just simplify it down. And we're just going to check the learner's ability. And again, we use the verbs that are over here. So we have these cognitive dimensions and we have the verbs. Now I know it's a bit hard to keep up with all this scrolling, but I'll try and slow down. We're going to check the learner's ability to describe what is meant. So you can see the color coding is the red is the topic, and then the assessment technique is in the green. So we have a multiple choice quiz. We have matching learning activities to appropriate learning outcomes, and then maybe a simple case study. So some things that we're still working through here. So comments as well, just so you can see that, so just some comments about maybe we can't design because we can't do this. So this is the kind of flow that can happen, that even when it's not in the live meeting, maybe afterwards I went back and went, actually, do you know what, I don't think we can do design. And I left a comment here that can be reviewed by the other participant on this board. And then if they agree, they can resolve it and we'll update it. So we get to track the changes that are being made along the way. So this is just one example. And like it goes on then for other learning outcomes that we start to build up here and so on. Another example would be something like we did with the work package 4, but for another project here, or it's even the strengths, the storyboard. So the storyboard is a very classical thing to do in any type of course design. You want to just storyboard things out. And again, you might recognize this journey, steps, actions, feelings. So it's clear that I robbed this template from the journey map. And then I customized it to what I wanted it to be. So we've journey, learning outcomes, actions. So learning outcomes would be new there, actions, feelings, takeaways. And then backstage, what do I need, media, design thoughts, and so on. And the journey maps over. And again, so instead of it being whatever was onboarding or registration, I've changed it up here to be the things that I want it to be. Now, this board is shared with a team of maybe 4 or 5 people, and we would use it in a live meeting to talk through what it is we're doing. We would use it offline, so we come back to revisit. So let's say if I'm coming in and looking at this section here, I'm kind of going, all right, what is it I'm supposed to do on this section? So I know that we have a track record of what we agreed. And it's just a great way of tracking a meeting and tracking a journey, because try doing this stuff in a Word document. Like it's just a nightmare trying to track this type of stuff, because everything here is so deletable, and sometimes you just don't need to keep everything. So delete it, and it's in the history, and put in the new comment and move on. So this is just like 2 type of ways that I would use Miro here. Just from a logistical point of view, I have an educational license on Miro. And what that means is basically you can sign up for an educational license, and I have 100 seats. So in my design team here, my teaching and learning design team, I have 9 users. So I've got 91 seats left. And it's completely free. And you can see all the names here of the people who can access this board alongside here. So it's kind of small. So there's just 2 ways that I would use it. Let me see. Do you want to share anything else there before? No, I think I've probably said enough. I'm just going to give my perspective on the pros and cons of using this type of board, and then we'll queue up Sharon and meet her and hear how she's using it in her domain. From my perspective, I think using a digital whiteboard like this is really powerful, because it's creative, it's engaging, it gets people on a meeting call active. They can't just sit back and not participate. They see you doing something, they see you putting a sticky pad note on, or even if it's just an ideation session, they have to add something, so it brings that creativity and engagement. The most important one for me is persistence, that it persists, that I can come back in time and time again. I don't have to worry about sticky pad notes falling off or whiteboards, papers falling down. I can come back in and see everything that was done, and I can also see a report of changes that were made by my colleagues or my peers. The third thing is probably the Miroverse, the fact that there's such a strong community out there making templates for all sorts of different usages. Instead of having to start from scratch. I'm not a greenfield person. I like a structure, so I like to start with something and then change it. I really don't like having to start a brand new board from scratch. The downsides is that there's a bit of a learning curve. It's a little bit finicky. And in fact, we might even be able to get you guys onto a board in the last few minutes of the session today, just to see what happens. So, navigating around, moving around it, sticky pad notes, frames, things are a little bit, there's so much going on in here of what you can do between creating grids and comments and text boxes and links and things. It can be a bit tricky, and sometimes the board gets a bit messed up. But the good thing about a digital whiteboard getting messed up is that you can always revert it and do So that's, yeah, learning curve and getting messy. Sizing and exporting may not be everybody's taste. Like, you do have to kind of structure things well, and you'll see an absolute masterclass from Sharon in how to structure stuff in a few minutes. I'm a bit more fluid and a bit messy, whereas her stuff, it looks amazing. Bigger the group, more chances for problems. That's kind of a given. And then at the end of the day, some people still just prefer to work on paper. You know, it's kind of the downsides. But for me, this tool is really, really powerful. So I think what we'll do now is we're gonna maybe just introduce Sharon, if we can, just have a few words so she can introduce her video, and then we'll kick it off.
So here are a few examples of how we might use Miro to interact with our students, to get to know the students and help the students to get to know each other, to encourage collaboration, to run workshops, and ways that it might be used for assessment as well. So the first example here is taking a look at how we've used it with a student group to get to know them and to help them to get to know each other. So this board would have started off as a blank board, and we would have added in little templates in here for the students to use and fill out a few details about themselves. So there's a few prompts there where they might add things about their hobbies and interests, places they might have worked, and other things that might be of interest for the particular course that they're on. So this could be adapted according to a particular program. And also that they include a photo. So this would help them get to know each other, particularly if it's a large group. And also if they're distance or blended learners, it just helps them get more familiar with each other very quickly. And just to see an example, so we would have, as lecturers, also added in a few details about us, and that would just set the example for them. And also you can add in other personalization type features as well. So maybe a notice board or something beside each student so that they can fill in a few details and talk a little bit more about their hobbies or samples of work and all of those kind of things, that they can maybe populate as the year is going on. But this is a great way for them to find out about each other and get to know each other a little bit better. And it's very easy to onboard students at the start of the year with this. All you have to do is share the link with them, and that can be done through Teams. And we would also put it at the top of the Moodle page so that they can easily get to it and fill it in their own time. So we might encourage them maybe to start it during a live session, and then if they don't have time, maybe they can fill it in then later on. But it is a great way to get to know each other. And also you can see, put in things like your LinkedIn page. So that way they can link up and network with each other as well. So this is a really useful way for them to stay connected. The next example that I'm going to show you here is actually a workshop. So this workshop would be done as part of a first session to help students get to know how they will prepare for a project that I'm going to be setting them. So during this workshop, there would be all the students on board on Teams. I would give them the link and I would walk them through what needed to be done for this workshop, and I would have the instructions all ready for them here. And again, it's really easy just by sharing the link with them to get them into this workshop. So for this particular one, they're going to be planning a website. So as part of this, I wanted to show them how they might do some of the tasks that are required for the project that they're going to be working on. It's an individual project, but this workshop is to show them how they can help each other, to generate ideas, and just again to get to know each other. So here we have the instructions, And then I would have also included an example, so they have something to look at as an idea for what they're supposed to be doing. And I would also have given them then a blank template for them to fill in as they're going along. So you can see I've put in a few post-its there as well for them so that they can easily get access to things there, because they're all new to Miro at this stage. And then towards the bottom of this particular board, we have more of a kind of a solution or outcome that they've come up with. And just to zoom out and show how this is all set up. So in advance, I would have a copy of all those blank instructions in various areas on this board. And I would assign the groups out into breakout rooms and teams and give them a group number and ask them to go to that area on the Miro board. Now, as this is a first workshop, this is an ideal way for me to be able to see how they're getting on and jump in and help each group as we're going along. So it's easier for me to monitor this for their first workshop. But there can be a lot of people on this workshop. I've done it with 35 people, and there's a lot of activity on this space. But once you help them and guide them to their particular board, it tends to work really well. And they're talking on Teams while they're actually working on these boards. So just to zoom in on one of these to see how it looks. So here you can see they've filled out some details about what they were asked to look at, and they've come up with some content that's related to the theme, and they've started categorizing it and then organizing it into some kind of a structure and coming up with how they might design out a wireframe. And right beside their group boards, they have the instructions. So they don't have to go a long way away in order to get to that. And also, while that workshop is going on, or even afterwards, I can write little post-it notes for them, which they will see as they're working away on the board, or afterwards, if they come back to maybe work on something later, check something out later, they can see any comments that are added in there. So these kind of things, this is a synchronous workshop. So it's live, it's while they're on their Teams call, but you can also design boards that can be used for asynchronous purposes, so they can collaborate while they're not on a live call. So here's a template for another workshop. And in this case, the groups would be given a separate board. So one group would come into this particular board, and I would give them that individual link in their breakout group in Teams. So then they can come in here, and for this particular workshop, they're advancing their project. And again, they're working with their team members to generate some new ideas. So they're learning a little bit about design thinking and how to use that as part of their process for their project. So at this point, they are going to explain to their team members or to the group that they've been assigned to what their project is about. And they're going to put in some sticky notes of some of the content and some of the ideas that they see as forming part of their project. And once they've done that, they actually rotate around to the next person's board and help them out with organizing their content. And then finally, they each, as a group, go to every single board and have a conversation and come up with some new ideas as to what should be or what could be done with the particular idea, and how to advance it and add more, contribute more ideas to it. And this is an actual example of when the workshop was actually in progress. So these students here would have put a lot of detail actually into what they're doing, and shown some of the different elements, and then they would have gone around, rotated around and looked at each other's ideas. So the feedback from students on this particular workshop was that it really helped them with articulating their ideas and thinking about them and getting different viewpoints. So the next example here is asynchronous. So it would be an example where I would have given them just some of the basic boards here without all this content in it, and assigned them into groups to work in their own time whenever they're able to contribute some examples of landing pages and advertisements that they would have seen. And as part of that, then they were to critique those particular examples that they'd looked at, and then discuss among themselves which one would they look at in a little bit more detail, and consider what type of audience might it be targeted at, and drawn out empathy maps and customer journey maps and so on. And the idea behind this is to have students work through an idea and discuss what are some of the key elements. And the idea behind that then is that they were preparing for their own project. And their own individual project was where they had to come up with an idea themselves, come up with a particular target audience and segment that audience, and draw up empathy maps and customer journey maps. So this would be a completed project then, but individual. But however, working with their team on just looking at other examples and analysing them helped them with the process of doing their own. So this particular example here then would be a gradable element. So when this is submitted then, from the lecturer's point of view, they can see all of the work and how it's been progressed along, and what kind of an outcome. So there's a link then to the finished product as well. So just flicking over to another example here, and in this example I was the actual student. So I was doing a Master's in User Experience Design with Letterkenny IT, and this would have been one of the assignments that we were set for user interface design. And each week we were expected to complete certain tasks, and our evidence would be presented here. And the great thing about this then is the lecturer could see what the progress is, and we would present it at the end of the week as well. And they could see the progression and give us some guidance and feedback as we're moving through the process. So there's quite a lot involved in that one there, and it can also be summarized. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit more on the summary version of this. And you can see here that it's an easy way to present your opportunity and what your idea is that you're working on and who the audience is and so on. And to show your personas and the various scenarios that it might be used under. And also you can do your storyboards. And these storyboards were actually made in Miro. So these little icons could be added in just to show the process that's involved and articulate that. And also then you can plug in other apps too. So you can plug in videos and prototypes. So in this example, Figma, which is a prototyping software, can be used to build the prototype, and this would be what we call a low fidelity prototype. And it's from inside Miro, you can actually work through this and see how it's designed. and then it would have moved on to a more high fidelity version, and again a plug-in to where it was built in Figma. And you can actually play through that as well and see the various elements and how they've been designed. So using this approach just allows the lecturer that's setting the assignment to see exactly what the progression was of the idea and how it went from beginning to end. So it shows a nice flow the whole way through. This is another example of a project that I would have worked on, and in this case it would have been with a group for a module called User Experience Design, and the lecturer here would have had deliverables each week, and the team then would meet at various stages during the week to discuss the idea that they're working on and work on the particular tasks that they've been actually asked to do for that particular week. So you can see here the progression then of this idea and working through the various steps of the user experience process. And this type of a project is something that is very useful for an industry context as well, because it's easy to see where people are in the process and how they've progressed their idea and the contribution of various team members as well. And what we would do is meet on Teams and then actually work on the board. So when you go to work on a Miro board, you can actually see where everybody else is. You can see a little icon to show where they're actually working. So the final example is how it could be used using Miro to maybe demonstrate your research or using it to help support your research process. So this is an example of where I was working on a piece of research and I was using Miro to actually help me with documenting my process and showing that I had used a user experience design and design thinking process, and showing how I had gone about conducting my research. And as well as that, I can present my findings here as well and show how I went about developing personas. And in this case, it was actually for understanding student learner needs for a particular program that might be developed or approaches to how it's delivered. So using the personas and then actually showing how we might solve different issues that we might be dealing with. So there's a few examples of how Miro can be used for a variety of contexts, but certainly one way that we found really, really effective is just in terms of introducing students to each other and getting to know each other, as well as just collaborative workshops, just getting them talking to each other on Teams and working on a solution and just, finding imagery maybe and examples and sharing them there that they can always go back to and link into later on. So thank you, and back now to Orla.
That's a masterclass. I think Miro should be hiring her to show off those examples because they're something else. Yeah, normally you only see those from the marketing team, it was unreal. So I think what we were going to try and do actually just is to see, did people want to just have a little quick go at a Miro board? So we have this open board here. And there's a link there that maybe someone might pop it into the Teams chat for me, even t.ly/JH- or -5. There's Sharon there now with her mouse. She's on the job. And what you can do is, so those of you on mobiles, if you don't have the app, you can join via the browser, but you can't do very much. You can only add a comment. If you do download the app, it may ask you to sign up. But you can fully use it on your mobile. But those on desktops and web browsers, away you go. So I see visiting people coming in here. So I'm just going to scroll out. And if you go down to this little section here, we can have a look at what's, so you can grab sticky notes. You can grab things here. So I just invite you to come and mess up the board and put on some sticky notes. Maybe grab them, put them in here, say hello, put some icons on. So I see we've got 7 people on the board, and there's people flying everywhere. So you can see it's all anonymous at the moment because this isn't in a team, whereas when we're in the official teams, you see the people's names popping up. So visiting writers. So anybody putting anything anywhere? You're all looking around, moving around, but I don't know what you're doing. Oh, someone's up here writing hola.
That's Orla.
Hola? Hola. Who? Hola. Yeah, so someone's got a free pen here going. Someone said hello over here. You can't be too precious about your Miro boards. You know, if I zoom all the way out, can I see what's been going on? So I see Hi has gone up there. I see Emma McDonald has signed up and she's in. I see Sharon. So what's Emma writing? So Emma is writing fantastic stuff. Sharon, Orla, thank you. So you've named yourself. So those who wish to say bad things, stay anonymous. So yeah, so feel free to just paint the board, get some stars. I'll just, as you see, it's a hive of activity there at the moment. But yeah, Miro is very generous, I have to say. So the educational license is there. It's free for people to sign up, and long may it stay that way. And as you saw there with Sharon's examples, there's some super uses for it in classrooms, whether it's as simple as just having an icebreaker, or you want people to do full-scale design, prototyping, wireframing, or you just want them to curate their content, or posing questions, ideations, stickies, just using sticky pad notes to do rapid-fire thinking. There's so many uses, but like as Sharon says, probably one of the nicest ones is just the icebreaker. And I like the idea of her fridge, where she just sticks the Post-its on the fridge. It's kind of like the fridge magnets concepts, and it's just very informal and very relaxed, and a nice way to get people to interact and meet each other, especially given what happened recently where, students weren't physically able to meet. So we got lots more going on there.
I like the names they use: the visiting artist, the visiting writer, the visiting architect. Are they default character? You see?
Yeah, I guess they're default anonymous titles they give people.
It's
So
a way to title anonymous people.
yeah.
It's nice to give
Yeah, so our board is getting busy there. Is that me? Visitor applauding. So yeah, so someone on the mobile maybe can only use the chat if you don't download the app. Let's see, I'm just going to zoom out, see what else we going. Oh, there's a lot of action going on up here. Hello from Brum. Hello from the sunny southeast, whoever's down there. What's this fantastic collaboration and learning tool? So yeah, so that's kind of it. Like, I suppose we may as well open to questions. I mean, it's just give you a go at it there, and hopefully some of the examples we've shown might spark a little bit of interest. It's a nice tool to use, and happy to help people support it or use it. So have we any questions at all coming in on it? Are you too busy painting?
Do we need to look at licensing for this, or do you think we can get away with the free version?
Yeah, it's the free version. So the Miro education license is free, and it's in this instance this is with the anonymous board. It's I'm not sure how this one is shared, but if we all sign up, if you want privacy and kind of you want your team to be your boards to be private, then in that educational license. So for me, I have a teaching and learning design team. and I have 100 seats on that team, and I invite people to join, and then I can then give them permissions to certain boards and certain projects. So when the 100 seats are expired, I have to start kicking people off. But 100 seats is a lot, to be honest, for my project work. I don't think I'd ever fill them.
You get 100 seats for free.
Individually, personally, me, I get 100 seats, yeah. So another person can sign up,
Yeah.
get 100 seats if they wanted to, yeah.
Okay. And then if we get students to be using this as a collaborative learning tool,
Yeah.
they get 100 seats, every person.
Yeah, in theory, yeah, if you have the academic email, basically. But in terms of students, I think, I'm not sure if Sharon uses it in that mode, because you can actually just share out your boards like this and not have them necessarily identifiable. So they're not in a team per se. It's just a free shared board, and anybody with a link can come in and use it. So there's a few ways of using it, basically. Depends on how private or not you want it. But licensing is,
How much is it if you would buy more seats?
I didn't look into it, I don't know, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, long may it stay. I mean, the likes, its major competitor, Miro, is quite expensive. It's not, it's very expensive. So let's hope this stays this way. But there's not too many of us using it. But it's people. Some people will go for it, and others may not. I don't think it'll be oversubscribed anyway.
Orla, there's a question online. You mentioned about storyboarding, etc. You have lots of post-its detailing all of the stuff to be built or designed, etc. Is there a task or progress tracker element? For example, you will see in the Miro board everything that needs to be done. Can you also see a task view? Who is doing what and is it done, etc.?
Good question. I probably don't know is the answer. I'm sure there are plugins and extensions for sure that could probably do that. As it stands, I don't think there's an actual work management tracking system built into it, unless Sharon on the chat there wants to comment otherwise. But
what I would have used it for, I would actually get them to write some reflection anyway, or to say what their participation was if it's a team. So you can set it up in that kind of way. Now, I haven't looked into whether it does keep track of tasks, but generally people will put their name to what they've done. And, you can always have a separate reflection for each student so that they can reflect upon whether, what the participation elements were or that kind of thing. And the other question then there about the licensing and the use of it. So yeah, I do actually get the students to sign on to the education license because they need to be able to do that so they can create their own boards. So some of those examples were just a starting point, but they can then create their own boards. But it is a very collaborative type of environment. So everybody tends to automatically see each other's boards, and you do have to tell them to lock down the sharing because it's automatically shared with everybody. And other people could go in and edit it by accident or something. So they would need to be shown how to set the share settings so nobody else can change their work.
Sharon, is this popular an assessment tool you use as well on the Masters in Digital Media in Mayo?
Yes. So the students, what happened to us is when we were, obviously we were doing blended learning prior to the pandemic, but we would have had the students come in to do those type of workshops in person. And it was very like what Orla would have described earlier. We would just have had paper and post-its everywhere. And it generally was a really good, fun bonding experience for them. So we needed something that would help them get to know each other, because we do encourage networking and collaboration the whole way throughout their program, because they learn so much from each other as well. So the fact that I was actually studying on that master's with Letterkenny IT, that really helped me a lot, because that was part of the program as well, where those assignments you saw, we had to work as a team or work individually and use Miro for that. So yeah, they absolutely give me great feedback about using it, and it
really helped them. I noticed this year, they've said it time and time again, they're on a second part of that project where they're actually doing the website build, and they said it really set them up for success when they had all those discussions, and it helped them think about how they were approaching things and getting ideas from other people. So it was just a very rich, dynamic way for them to work together, I think.
We're running workshops on this, are we? Or in the future, I'm sure it'll be popular in our monthly programme. Or have we ran anything on this?
No,
but I'd say it'll be popular to run some sessions with colleagues on it, either before the academic year ends or next year. It'll be fab. I certainly would like another session on it, but it's great. So listen, we're going to close off for today, and thanks a million to all our contributors and presenters this morning and this afternoon. And we'll see you bright and early. We're starting at 9 a.m. sharp, and everything's going to be working. Okay? So we'll see you all in the morning, and thanks a million. We're kicking off with our guest from Australia, from Cradle, from Deakin University, Professor Phil Dawson. So I'm really looking forward to that, and we're exploring academic integrity. So see you all in the morning at 9 a.m. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.